Do you need help in your relationship? Or maybe your relationship is going great and you just want to strengthen the bond between the two of you. In any case, tune in to Ask Mama E, a show intended to assist in creating and keeping the strongest relationships. Join and watch Mama E, the relationship expert, using her wisdom to guide others into forming stronger bonds.
Hi there, this is Mama E. Thank you again for joining us for the Ask Mama E telecast. Once again, for those of you who might be new to what we're doing, this is a telecast that's dedicated to healthy, happy marriages. We I don't limit it anymore to marriages because many of us aren't married, but we're either thinking about getting married or living like we're married. In any event, part of what we have been doing now for about 20 years is trying to bring information to you, our listening or viewing audience, about the skills that are possible, the things that you can possibly do to bring happiness and wholeness into your house. So today I am privileged to have special guests with me today. One of the things that's important to me is that not only do I tell you that happy is possible, but if there are resources that are available to you, I owe it to you to tell you where you can find those resources. One of those resources is an organization called Live the Life. And today we have representatives from Live the Life with us to share with you what they do and how you can reach them and how you might benefit from what they offer. So today we have with us Rossi. All right, and her co-worker Ian. We're going to talk a little bit about what you do. Introduce yourself to Jacksonville, to the audience. Tell them what Live the Life is about and how you fit in.
Sure.
Okay.
So my name is Rossi, and I'm the director of Live the Life Northeast Florida. And Live the Life exists to strengthen marriages and families and lower the divorce rate. And so what we do is we offer an array of programs designed to help people achieve healthy, happy marriages. And we start our programs all the way in middle and high schools where we teach young people what healthy relationships look like and the skills they need to be successful in life. And then we have a cadre of programs for married people, all the way from those who are about to get married. So we have premarital classes, we have marriage enrichment classes. That is for anybody who's married at any stage of their marriage. So right after you get married, newlyweds, all the way to those who have been married for years and years and just want to keep investing in their marriage. And then we have a program called Hope Weekend for people who are in a marriage that is struggling or possibly headed for divorce, or even for couples who just want to kind of rekindle that love and deepen their connection. So we kind of go the gamut of every stage of the relationship. And again, our goal is just to provide couples with the skills that they need to have a happy, healthy relationship.
First of all, I'm glad that I found out about Live the Life years ago, but to know that you're still there, that you haven't given up. There are so many people who are challenged in their marriages. And I find people very often who will say, I just don't know what to do.
Right.
And to think that the way has been provided, that there's somebody out there who can tell you just what to do.
Yeah.
You know, tell us a little bit about your role. Exactly what is it that you do and how does that fit into the program as a whole?
Sure. So my role primarily is to do things like this, to be out in the community, to be talking to community organizations and to churches and other groups of people where we know they can benefit from our valuable programs and services. And we don't try to provide all the solutions because every marriage is different. Everyone knows that. You can say, oh, well, there's not one size fits all. But what our program does and what we're so proud about is when we bring it to people, we give you the skills to teach you how to communicate, right? So we don't know the issues in that particular marriage, but if you follow the classes and the instructions that we give, the skills that we help you learn, you'll be able to talk through that with your partner because you guys know your unique issues. We teach the skill of talking, the skill of communicating.
Right.
We teach the skill of fighting. fighting in a healthy way, so that when you get in those arguments, they become productive instead of being destructive and
Yes.
tearing the relationship
So
down.
then, whatever it is you're fighting about,
Yes.
that might change from house to house.
Exactly.
But knowing how to fight.
Is the right.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to get people to, the knowing how to fight. So what my role is, to go back to your question, is really to let people know that we exist,
Yes.
to let people know that we're here to help. And so many times people don't want to give up their marriage. You know, people say that all the time, oh, well, it just wasn't for me. Well, for some people, I'm sure that was the case. But for most of the people, it's not a matter of not having a will or
Yes.
wanting it. They just don't know how. They've given up hope
Yes.
because it seems hopeless. And
Yes.
it seems like my unique situation cannot be fixed.
Right.
What we realize, though, is if they had skills, if you teach people the skills, a lot of the healing can go on in their own home.
Right.
They need the skills.
The
And So
skills.
that's what makes us really different.
Let's bring Ian in, because
Sure.
it would be real easy for these two women
Yes.
to overshadow the fact that this guy is sitting here. Tell us a little bit, Ian, about what you do. How we were talking the other day, and you shared with me a little bit about your own personal journey in marriage. So just tell the audience a little bit about also your life and why it is that you feel passionate about marriage.
Well, as I mentioned the other day, I have devoted my life to service, service of others. Spent 22 years active duty Coast Guard because I wanted to give people a second chance at life. And that service, that calling just has never gone away. And so I feel very blessed because my wife and I went through a lot of marital trouble when back in 2005. We got married in 1999. Nobody gave us the how to be married
Yes.
workbook.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
as most people find out, you know what? We're going to hit some speed bumps, and we didn't know how to navigate them.
It's so interesting that you say that all of us who are in this work have either found it out personally,
Right.
or by our association with other people, is that most of us will admit that we didn't know how.
Exactly.
Isn't it odd that no matter what area of life we've grown up to be a part of, nobody puts the effort and energy into having a successful marriage as we do with everything else,
Or that there's no prerequisite, right?
Yes.
We don't give a child a driver's license without them learning how to drive. You can't carry a concealed weapon or a weapon without some type
Yes.
of, okay, do you
Yes.
know how to handle this? But yet we give people a marriage license
Yes.
with no how to.
Yes.
And so one of the things we say to people is, we teach you how to be married. And that's not because we're saying you're doing it wrong. It's a lack of information. Nobody has told us. Like
Yes.
there's no book, just like when you become a parent, there's no book, right? But at least there's a lot of books on that
Yes.
that you can follow, oh, this is how you birth a baby. And thanks to the internet, obviously there's some things out there. But when it comes to being married, there is no definitive guide or anything people can just pick up. And so what people are going off of is what they know. And what we know is what you saw may not have been the
That's
best
right.
thing.
That's
All of us
right.
are bringing, if you can imagine this, when you come down the aisle, right? Yes, you're in the white dress and they're in the suit and all that, but you're also dragging everything
Yes,
that
yes.
came from your father's
Absolutely.
house or your mother's house or your family or even your experiences in relationships up to that point. And so, yes, this is a beautiful scene, but if you pull the curtain back a little
Yes.
bit, there's a lot of
Yes.
baggage coming with
Yes.
that. And nobody tells you how to navigate that. And so what we say is, a lot of people spend so much time preparing for the wedding.
Yes.
And they're not preparing for the marriage. So that's why we offer a premarital class.
Yes.
And that premarital is not just, let's just, have a couple sessions. No, we give you a 150 question inventory because we want to make sure you have talked through some of these things.
Yes.
It's not to say, oh God, okay, you're not compatible. What it is to start the conversation. Because wouldn't it be a shame to get, 6 months in and you guys haven't talked about what your structure, your family
Yes.
structure is going to look
Yes.
like. If one person wants one child and one person wants 6. If one person says, oh, I want my in-laws to be with us and come live with us, and the other person is saying, well, I kind of like our household to be separate. Those are the type of things that become roadblocks if you don't talk them through in
Yes.
the beginning.
Yes.
How much debt do you have? And those sorts of things. You need to talk about that. And a lot of people are coming to the altar. They're preparing for the marriage.
Yes.
They're
The
preparing
wedding.
for the wedding. They're not preparing for the marriage. And so what we're trying to do is in those premarital classes, prepare you for the marriage. And then, of course, in our marriage enrichment class, well, now that you're here, how do we bring this together so that it's happy? Because
Yes.
we're not advocates of people just being married for the sake of being married. We want you to be happy
Yes,
and married. And
right.
obviously, we're not trying to make you have a life sentence of misery. That's not what we're here for. But we do believe that people who want to be married, they took those vows seriously and they want that family unit to stay together. We want to give them the tools to be able to figure out how to do that successfully and
Yes.
be happy and married.
I'm glad that you said that our goal is, again, not to tell you that you just drudge along. You know, there are people who their only image of marriage was what they saw their moms, and there were people who did have a roommate type marriage.
Yeah, they just
All right.
survived.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. But we want to say that even though the two of you can opt to live together as roommates in terms of sharing certain things,
Right.
but in addition to that, you know, at the end of the day, you're glad you're there.
Right.
And that's what we want to say to people, even those who have given up, even
Right.
those who think, I don't see any happy marriages. I've had people even say to me that, you know, nobody's got a good marriage. And it's because I think that we publicize all of the negatives.
Right.
You know,
It's true.
people see all the celebrities, the athletes who are on marriage number 5,
Right.
you know, and so what they conclude is they could make it, so I can't either.
Yeah, and I will say, growing up, and I grew up with a faith-based background. That doesn't actually help in this story, unfortunately. But I did not see a lot of happy couples. So I went to college and everything, knowing kind of the path that I wanted for my future, but not seeing marriage as necessarily a part of that, because I kind of was of the mindset that I'm kind of cool with me. I like me, I'm happy, you know. And if someone wasn't adding to that, then I didn't necessarily think it was for me, just because I didn't have a model of happy and healthy. I saw a lot of couples together, but when you pulled back the curtain, they weren't really happy. They were just surviving it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a framework to say this could be for me. And that's one of the things that we think is our charge as an organization, is that we want to show young people that marriage is still relevant.
Yes.
It's still for them. It's still, you know, a part of society that matters. You know, we think the family structure is very pivotal, to a healthy community and to healthy cities, right? That bedrock of having healthy families. And so we want to encourage young people that, yes, you can be happy and in a relationship. And it doesn't just have to be for social media. You know, you have everybody puts those happy pictures on there. We know that is not necessarily what's really happening when the camera shuts off. But really, you can have a happy and healthy marriage. And that doesn't mean it's perfect, right? Because there is no perfect marriage. But what we're trying to get couples to is a place where they can maintain that level of happy, because at the end of the day, we know we're not fighting against each other. We are trying to figure out how to navigate these arguments or these situations or these things that come up. But you and I, we're on the same team. So we are tackling those things together, and we're not adversaries, right? And when you have that mindset, that same teamness, you can, you know, that just gives you that person that you know is always in your corner and keeps that bond and that connection there, because now we're tackling this together, not against one another.
Yes. You know, you said something a moment ago that I'd like to kind of hit on a little bit. When we think of the fact that we have two people who want to be married, I often say that I consider myself a cheerleader for marriage, but I am not the person who says that everybody out there ought to be married. I am convinced that there are some people who have not chosen to do the things that it takes to have this bond.
Right.
You know, we want our children to grow up in a house where they become cheerleaders. They saw mom and dad, and they leave thinking, one day I'm going to do that.
It's aspirational because they saw it, and they saw the behind the scenes, and still know it was still good, it was still real, it was a healthy relationship, right? And I think that's one of the things that really will help change the perception if we have a generation of young people coming behind us. If you know, millennials and Gen Xers, whatever, we start getting it right and really have those healthy relationships, that kids that come behind us can then see it and still have that as an aspiration because we figured it out.
Yes.
Now, obviously, our program is here and it's in Northeast Florida, so we're not touching the masses yet. But you know, maybe that's the goal, right? Our organization is not only here in Northeast Florida, but we do have offices in Tallahassee, Panama City, Orlando, Orlando. Where else am I missing, Ian?
Miami.
Miami, thank you. And so we are, pretty much covered in the state of
Yes.
Florida. And now we're going out and people are asking us to come. I think we're training something like 20 pastors or something in Texas and then some in Oklahoma. So we're trying to get the message out there. But really, we wanted to have that paradigm shift so
Yes.
that people do see happy, healthy relationships and they say, yes, I want that for my life as well.
Absolutely. Ian, tell us a little bit about, I know that you're the one with the boots on the ground. Tell us what you're finding when you go into these churches or other organizations. What is it that you find people are asking for? What is it that they need from you?
I think the generic answer that people always say is communication. Well, what does communication mean?
Yes.
So is that us, he's talking about the Jaguars game and she's talking about the Bachelorette
Okay.
at the same time with each other?
Uh-huh.
That's not communication.
Right.
So they come in and they say, you know what, we want to be able to have that connection. It's something we at Live the Life call our us.
Uh-huh.
So if one of them wins, the other one loses, their us is not winning.
Yes.
And
Yes.
vice versa. If the other person's winning, the other one's losing, their us still is not winning. So being able to give communication styles and ways to be able to say, you know what is the solution that benefits us both? And how can I understand what that person's saying instead of playing a listening hopscotch
Right.
or a double dutch where I'm just waiting to jump in with my opinion.
Yeah. And I think that's how most of us learn to communicate. That I'm not really listening to you. I just want you to hurry up and get through so I can make my point.
Right, yeah.
And so we've spent so much time trying to be right. I want you to say that I'm right. That doesn't matter. You don't even have to believe it.
Right.
Just say it. And so here we are, we go our separate ways thinking that we won. Because that's important to me that I won.
But if you win and your spouse loses, y'all both lost.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
again, we're on the same team.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So what Ian was talking about is when we have those moments where we're trying to deepen that communication, or at least help people to learn how to communicate, what you first have to do is identify a few things, right?
Right.
So we need to identify what your communication style is and what your personality style is. And that in turn, having that information really helps you to understand how you need to communicate with your spouse.
Right.
And we talk about differences just in the male brain and the female brain. And so how we communicate different, right? Because you need to know that.
Yes.
And sometimes women, we have to be wise, and men have to be wise too. And when we approach each other, what time of day, all that
Yes,
stuff matters.
yes.
Because women operate, most of the time, we're not talking about every woman, but if we're operating on a stream of consciousness, all at the same time. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm, whatever my job is. And this is all in my brain, right?
Yes.
So maybe while she's, getting the lunches together and trying to get the kids out the door and get dressed for work, that's not the time to bring up a topic, right? And as a woman, maybe your husband is one of those typical male brains where they need that time to decompress, right? So right after they get off work, that
It's
may not
not.
be the
Yes,
time
right.
to then approach them about, all the issues you had in your day. Give them that chance to decompress and have that little moment of nothingness. Let me
Yes.
just get it all out. I have left work, and this is, typically how men brains work sometimes, Again, I say typical. I don't want to say everybody, but we know they need that nothing
time.
box, right? And
Yes.
they have to shut off work mode, and then they get into family mode. Then they get into husband mode. So knowing those things, sometimes we teach that, and then people are like, I never thought of it.
Yes.
That way. And so
Yes.
it's not just about just the how do you communicate? It's oftentimes when and what is that person's style? What is their love language? How do they receive love,
Yes.
right? Because love is felt when needs are met. So how do we know what that is? Well, I need to know your love language, and I need to know what your needs are.
Right.
And again, those are the things that we're bringing out in the class. We do a needs assessment. Well, what are your needs? And then how can I meet them?
I think it's so vital that we share this information because I, like so many other people, got married because I was in love. And 20 years down the road, love wasn't enough.
Right.
And I found this little
part.
booklet that I very often tell people about. It's called Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti.
Yeah.
And when I read it, I thought if some of those people who gave me toasters for my wedding present had given me that book, it would have saved so many of the arguments that I had because he said I didn't say it. And I said, yes, I did say it, but you didn't hear me. Now, when I learned that if he was in the garage working with his tools, he was in the tools box and nothing I said registered, you
Right.
know. So then to be able to share information that we've learned, information that now we know that nobody taught us in high school,
Exactly.
nobody taught us at church. I often say that I grew up in church, and everything surrounding my life was pretty much taught at church. Well, when I think about it though, nobody taught us at church how to be a good wife. There were certain scriptures that I guess the generation before me knew, and they shared those scriptures.
Right.
But in terms of the where the rubber hits the road, and what do I do with this? You know, now I've run into a situation that I've never seen worked out before. What do I do with it? You know, and so now it is vital that not only do we share the data, the research that's out there, but the experiences that so many of us have gone through that can be beneficial. You said a little earlier about a certain generation of people now, they don't even see marriage as an option.
Yeah.
You know, my generation, at least we thought that that's the way you do.
Right.
You know, we finished high school, we went away to college, you got married, you had 2 kids, you got a good job. And that was kind of what we saw as how our life was going to play out. Something happened in the society that people stopped having those same goals.
Yeah.
What we found was that the daughters that we raised didn't see marriage as a necessary option. You know, it might happen, but if it doesn't, I've already bought my home.
Yeah.
I already have the car that I dreamed of. You know, I have my credit cards so I can go wherever I want to go. The plan A and B has now kind of changed. And so what do we say to particularly younger women who have written off marriage?
Well, again, I think what we have to go back to is like what you said. What the why of why the older generation was getting married, and people don't realize. I think it was somewhere between the 60s and the 70s, right around there, that some of those things started opening up for women. So you could have your own, bank accounts and
Yes,
things like
yes.
that. And so your financial fortunes weren't tied to a man. So
Yes.
that's part of it, right? So that we didn't need to get married because we could do things for ourselves, whereas before you kind of were locked out of that as a woman.
Right.
And so culturally, I think that has played a role in it. But then now what you have to say is you can still choose that if that's what you want. And I think some people I do still think a lot of people have that as an aspiration. They just don't think it's attainable because they will say, oh, well, there's no, men will say there's no good women say there's no good men.
Yes.
And so what we find is, and then all the hurts and stuff that people are going
Yes.
through. So part of what I encourage people to do, if they're single, but they are thinking, marriage is a possibility, date with intention is
Okay.
one of the things that I tell them. And that is, date with the mindset that you are looking for someone to be married, or at least that person has the potential of that. And so if you know that's not someone that you would see as a long-term partner, then don't waste your time dating them. That's part of it.
Okay.
If you're thinking it. And then some people are just kind of unsure, right? They say, well, I don't know, if it happens, it happens. And I think you just have to be honest, because I think what you put your heart and your mind to, people say manifest, whatever. If that's what you're looking for, then you live your life in such a way that that's what you're going after.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, for people who say, I just don't want to get married, I don't know that you can, convince them, but I do think it's so important, it's particularly for children,
Okay.
to have that. And yeah, you can raise children with a village, but one of the things that, this is not my words, but research just shows us that when a child is raised in that, that household where they have those supports of two parents, sometimes, even extended family, those children just do better in every area of
Okay.
life. And so if you want that for your kids, I think that is where you should be thinking, okay, I would do this because I think that's the best way to raise my
Yes.
family. But I think the way society is, you have a hard time right now telling people that without it coming off as judgmental. And so that's why we just focus on the people that they want to be married, right? And they're already in a relationship, but also giving their aspiration, like I talked about, to really show happy and healthy marriages so that people who are on the fence about it will say, yeah, I do think this is something that I want for me and my family.
I think when you talk about dating with intention, that's a new term to me. Not new in the sense that I don't get what it means, but so there are so many times not sure that we're honest with ourselves or with the other person.
Yeah.
You know, and so to intentionally know what it is I want, I owe it to you for you to know that I
Exactly.
plan to be married. So that we're not wasting each other's time.
Right.
If you just want somebody that you can have dinner with. And so I think to a large degree, and I pretty much agree with you, I'm not trying to convince anybody to get married because that's not the goal, you know, but for those who want to be,
Exactly.
you know, we want to come alongside you and say, what do I have in my arsenal that might
Exactly.
help you?
That might help you,
know?
yeah. And so I think that's our sweet spot is finding those people. But to go back to dating with intention, because so many people, they write us, they say, oh, that's great. You know,
Yeah.
you guys know all these healthy, what do you have for single people? And what we try to say is start there, date with intention. And we do, even on our social media and our, you know, the content we put out, there are some people that are really great at that. That's not what we do, but we will get you the information. So there's a lady by the name of Katie Balmer. Am I saying that right? Yep. Katie Balmer. And she really talks about that. She really hits home with dating with intention. And the goal there is to, like you said, be honest with the person about who you're dating and what your intentions are. Because if that's not what they're looking for,
Right.
okay, this is not for us.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
Because what you want to do is, for lack of a better way, clear the way for the right person, right? Because if this person is just saying, "Oh, I'm just hanging out,"
Right.
well, that's not what I'm doing. You know,
Yeah.
I have a time. I have I don't want to say a biological clock, but whatever your time frame is, you know that this is what you're trying to do. So you don't have time to necessarily waste
Yes.
when it's somebody that just says, "Oh no, I'm just looking for companionship. I'm just hanging out. I have no intention to get married." If you know that that's what you're looking for,
Yes.
let's go ahead and say, "Okay, we're going to stop right here. We can be friends, but." Moving
Right.
forward, I'm looking for somebody who's on the same page. And then the other thing is, you know, very quickly, you have to kind of do a screening. And I know people say, oh, don't go in with a list. It's
Yeah.
not a list,
Yes.
but you have to think about this because you're going to choose this person to be your spouse. But your kids don't get to choose who their dad is
Wow.
or who their mom is,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So you have to pick somebody that's going to make a good dad
Yes.
because their children don't get to pick. So those things matter. And so as you're dating, you have to think about that.
Yes.
So those are some of the things that I would tell somebody that's dating. Right away, you need to be thinking, is this somebody that's, a long-term prospect
Yes.
for me? And if it isn't, then don't waste your time because you can't get time back.
Yes.
And so then for those who find that relationship, then we would quickly say, don't only invest in your marriage.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, your
Your
wedding.
wedding.
Invest
Yes.
in your marriage because
Yes.
that's where you're gonna live, right? That wedding is one day. Then
Yes.
what?
Yes.
And what we know, what research shows, those in-love feelings that you have, which are great, we need those. Those are what make us crazy enough to say I do, right?
Yes.
But those wane after about 12 to 16 months.
Yes.
So then what? Now you're left with, I have to live with this person and we have to build a marriage. And you do have to build it. It's not just there. It's not, it's build a bear, right?
Yeah.
You got to add this and add that. It just doesn't come put together. And so you have to build that healthy relationship.
Gosh, it just seems as though we just never have enough time. There's so much to talk about. When we talk about this is going to be a lifetime event,
Yes.
it is not just the rose petals, but that when we leave here, we immediately got to pay somebody. So money comes up right away. But I think it's just so vital that people know that it still works. I know that you've seen so many situations where it looks like marriage doesn't work. Take it from Mama E. Take it from Rossi. Take it from Ian, that it can work. And we want to provide you with the skills, the tools that will help you make it work. Get in touch with us. We're going to be talking a little bit more as the time goes on so that we can share additional information. Again, it's Live the Life.
Yes.
And they're located throughout Florida,
Yes.
primarily.
And our website is livethelifenefl.org. Livethelifenefl.org.
Okay, this has been Mama E. I look forward to sharing with you again next time.
Do you need help in your relationship? Or maybe your relationship is going great and you just want to strengthen the bond between the two of you. In any case, tune in to Ask Mama E, a show intended to assist in creating and keeping the strongest relationships. Join and watch Mama E, the relationship expert, using her wisdom to guide others into forming stronger bonds.
The office of the bishop is more of a lifestyle than a 9-to-5 job. Hi, I'm Bishop Michael Johnson, and I'm the Chancellor of the Episcopal Academy. You know, although it is important that a bishop has a functional and valuable office with a staff, but that's not what makes us who we are. It is the inner life of Christ working in us so we can affect the world around us. Join us for the new podcast as we discuss the Episcopal way.
Your financial support keeps the ministry alive. You can be a blessing by sowing via Cash App today at $TeachJax, or you can text to give at 833-481-1524 and text the word.
So you've been watching the show. Would you like to be a content provider yourself and develop a show for the Inspire Network? Please give us a call today at 904-389-5592 or go to www.connecttv.info to submit a show idea.
Have a praise report or a testimony of how any of the programming at the Inspired Network has been a blessing to you? Please go to www.myprayerrequest.info. Click on the tab Testimony and submit it today. The IPC prayer team would love to know how effective the ministry is being to you.
Do you love video production? Would you like to have a career in video production but don't know where to start? Your problem is you have no one to teach you.
To sign up for this 2-day media camp that will offer advanced media technology training for creative minds, you will learn all the ins and outs of production and media. Go to www.learntv.today. Dr. Jackson and his team will bring 30 years of a wealth of knowledge to the table. Whether you're a beginner or advanced media professional, you will go to another level.